Hey, it's a beautiful day to build a library. Welcome to Lintcraft. My name is LintGravy, and this is Lintcraft episode 9. Today we've got a big project, the biggest Lintcraft project ever so far. We are finishing the Villager Trading Hall Library. Let's dive in. So, before we dive into the actual build itself, we've got a few things to talk about here with the villagers. In episodes 3 and 5, we filled the lower 2 floors of the library with maximum discount librarian villagers and reset their trades until we had every librarian selling one of the 34 unique sellable max level enchantments. This is absolutely gravy, because by the time this episode airs, this will likely no longer be possible. Mojang's nerfing both librarian trade options as well as villager curing discount stacking. I'm totally fine with certain enchanted books being locked to certain biome villagers, but I think they should finally add villages for the missing biomes.
Bruh.
I still haven't made up my mind about the discount nerf, but I am going to stock up as much as I can just in case these guys lose their sweet single emerald trades. But they shouldn't. They shouldn't. Don't you do it. Also, I have a bit of a confession. In episode 5, I said we had all 34 librarians. We were actually missing Power 5 at time of recording, but I went ahead and fixed the issue behind the scenes. So let's make use of a couple of new 1.20 features to spice up this build a bit. We'll be using hanging signs to label our librarians, and we'll get some of those swanky new fillable bookshelves so we can show off our soon-to-be stockpile. But before we do any of that, let's talk about today's episode. Actually, let's talk about Lintcraft. So, I'm no professional YouTuber, clearly. This is all just a hobby, passion project kind of thing, at least for now. And I'm learning as I go and having a lot of fun. Early in the series, I was trying to record my commentary live while playing the game and recording the footage, like a streamer maybe, but it wasn't quite right. So episodes 5 and onward have had the commentary, and by that I mean the words that are spoken out of my voice, scripted, recorded separately after the fact in post. Can you believe it? Have I fooled you thus far? Or is it painfully obvious? Either way, this has let me have a lot more fun and be more creative with the editing, and I've been trying out some different things, some quick cuts, some longer segments, different pacing, more or less effects and transitions and such. Anyway, I bring all this up because today's video is going to be insanely crazy long if we don't do it all as a big old time-lapse montage, so this episode might be a bit stylistically different. So, let's get started. Okay, so first things first. Let's harvest our treasures from last episode. Most importantly, the diamonds. We'll need them once the library's finished to duplicate our armor trims. All the goods were silk touched to save on space, so now we'll pillar the solid blocks up and fortune 3 pure diamonds all the way down. Next, we're gonna set ourselves up with a bigger, better clay generator closer to the library itself. More than anything, this build demands a lot of brick blocks, and they are not cheap or easy to stockpile. In case you didn't know, you can place pointed dripstone under solid blocks, like dripstone, and then place dirt on top of the solid block. Next, you use a water bottle on the dirt to turn it to mud and give it some time. Voila! The dripstone will suck the moisture out of the mud and turn it into clay. With our mud drying out, let's craft plenty of hanging signs and the new chiseled bookshelves. These new 1.20 blocks are going to level up this build, you'll see. Only thing is, I don't know which wood type is going to complement the library stalls best, so we've got to experiment to see what looks good. And you know we're going to dye the signs and put that gorgeous glow ink on them. Now, the goal here is to buy 6 of every book for 1 emerald each while we can, and fill up a chiseled bookshelf with them next to each librarian. Having the stockpile on the cheap is going to be totally gravy. However, we gotta make sure to keep an emerald stockpile on hand too, so we'll level up all of the librarians that have cheap paper trades. We need to keep in mind, the the villagers can only do so many trades a day, and all the paper and books we're trading is cutting into our decorative bookshelf supply, so we'll need to visit the cow and sugarcane farms, and soon. And while we're going back and forth, we'll check on our new sniffer friend and keep getting those sweet, sweet seeds. And as we're working, we're continuing to get bricks. This is probably the most vital part of the process. Just like the diamonds, we'll tower the clay blocks up and Fortune 3 pure profit down. Then into the furnaces they go. And then rinse and repeat the entire process. Okay, each sign needs to be positioned just right so the stalls look as gravy as possible before we dye them. You can edit the sign once it's placed, but if you need to reposition it, you'll have to re-dye it. Oh man, name tags for 1 emerald, you can't get any better than that!
Time to dye!
Okay, so I've got a loose color code we're gonna follow. Pretty intuitive, I think. We've got red for fire enchantments, blue for water enchantments, light blue for frostwalker, cyan for trident chants, yellow for looting and fortune, purple for unbreaking, mending, efficiency, and silk touch. We'll make the sword enchants magenta, green for the protections and such, and bow enchantments will be light green. Now we're gonna kick it up a notch with some glow ink. Oh man, oh boy, that looks so good! Okay, we've got our new bookshelves fully stocked, we've got our hanging signs positioned, labeled, dyed, and glowed? Sure, why not? We've got one more thing to do though. We're gonna fill the zombie villager converters to capacity with villagers whose only purpose will be to get converted and cured over and over again for discounts. But, like, in a totally humane, friendly way. Yeah, totally. Don't report me to r/villager rights, it's fine. Once we do that, we can sever the railroad and finish up the building. And while we're breeding the villagers, it's a perfect opportunity to stock up on bookmaking supplies and refresh our furnaces. Okay, so one of the 8 converter villagers refuses to pair to his lectern and is connected to a stonecutter down in Linton. Oh well, we'll fix it later. Now it's time to get to work on the building itself. Actually, if you've been watching closely, I've been working on the building all along. So we've got a lot to do. Right now it's mostly a shell, but it's a good foundation and I have a vision of what it'll look like. When you're planning a build, and you want to build the best, buildiest looking build possible, it's always a good idea to start with some reference pictures. So let's see what we want our library to look like. Ooh, I like that. That's neat too, but oh, that is the one. Let's see here. That's it. That's the target we'll aim for, and hopefully we get it close. Now the next step is to pick your block palette. You want to make sure that the blocks are going to look good together and gather up as many of each that you can for convenience. If you're in survival like me or even hardcore, log out and pop into a creative world to experiment with the palette and test out some shapes. Like if you're going for a certain texture for the wall or a certain angle for the roof, test it out and get it down in creative mode. Then take those small shapes and repeat them again and again in survival to make up the larger build. So obviously our block palette is bricks, spruce wood, nether quartz, nether brick, and sandstone. It's very schoolhousey, museum-y, and it's gonna look totally gravy. So this build has a lot of different parts to it, but it isn't that complicated. We've got the main open area that'll rise up to a vaulted roof, and the 4 outer rectangles for the stairwells that will be shorter than the central area that need constructed. I'm thinking they'll have flat roofs like a modern school might have, while the central area will extend over the 2 main entrances to create a sort of cross shape. And the zombie villager converter area makes it a bit oblong, so we'll use that as an opportunity for an overlook. As we go, we'll try to carve out some spaces for windows wherever we can to let in as much natural light as possible. Windows are a great opportunity to break up the sameness of walls and add some depth to your build. Speaking of depth, wall, slab, and stair blocks are all great for adding depth and texture, and don't be afraid to knock the corners off of square or rectangular buildings, or add a frame. Whenever you're building stairs, a great way to make them look better and make them easier to build is to flip around and put upside down stairs on the back of every stair block. The same thing goes for sloped ceilings. And of course we need a guide rail. So all in all, this library is going to be 4 stories tall, with the librarian villager stalls and converters on the bottom 2 layers, and the rest will be bookshelves and enchanting areas. I really want it to feel like an actual library and not just a villager trading hall. The last thing I want to touch on before we go full montage time-lapse is the central chamber's quartz pillar blocks. So in Minecraft, of course gravity isn't really an issue, except for a couple of blocks. But I want this building to look and feel real, and so the entire building is, quote, held up, unquote, by these 4 central pillars. Ideally, I'd like them to go up and maybe arch together at the tippy top and then have a massive fancy chandelier descending down the center of the open air space. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, I think that's plenty of talking for now. Let's get to some action. Okay, I think we're almost done. I'd like to get a nice bell tower in the center rising out of the roof, maybe. But for now, we'll wrap the video up here with the building proper finished. But before we can call this epic project done, we're gonna need more quartz than we have left, which sounds like a good excuse to do a Minecraft Monday Nether stream. We'll get plenty of quartz and be back in a jiffy. But this is probably like the highest level I've been without something terrible happening. Knock on wood. Probably the Herald meme. Well, guess I'll die. We have not been here at least. Good, good. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, now you're a child too. Oh, this is terrible. Everyone look away. Oh no, oh no. Oh, and I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Oh, on camera too. Oh, that is terrible.